What if I told you that the most important work I do every day, the work that built a $100 million company, takes about 4 hours? Not 12 hours, not 16 hours, four. You see, most entrepreneurs are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They're exhausted, they're burnt out, they're grinding on a million different tasks, and somehow they're still completely stuck. Meanwhile, I built one of the biggest coaching companies in the world. I've raised four kids. I've stayed married to the best woman on the planet, traveled the world, and I still have time for sauna, taking my kids to jujitsu, and taking long walks with no phone. How? How am I doing this? It's not magic. It's not luck. It's a completely different operating system for how you spend your time. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do every day, why most productivity advice is garbage, and how to collapse time so you can do in 12 months what most people don't do in 12 years. Let's go. I'm Russ Ruffino, done $100 million in high ticket sales, 6,000 plus clients, 12 years deep into this. I share what works, no income claims, no promises, just the playbook. Let's dive in. All right, before I give you the system, let me give you some context. I've been running this company for 12 years. We've worked with over 6,000 coaches, consultants, and experts. We have survived 4 presidents, 3 recessions, a global pandemic, and multiple platform algorithm changes. And through that, I've raised 4 kids. Russell III is 10, Giovanni's 8, Roman is 7, Valentina is 4. My wife Sarah and I travel all over the world. I prioritize my health, my spirituality, my relationships, and the business thrives. Now, that's not despite the fact that I don't work 80 hours a week. It's because of it. You see, the way that most people work is broken. And if you keep doing it their way, you're just going to stay stuck forever. So here's the biggest misconception about productivity. Most people think that being productive means getting more stuff done. So they optimize for volume, right? More tasks, more meetings, more hours. They feel busy all day. They collapse into bed exhausted. They wake up to do it all again. But here's the question that nobody asks. Did any of that shit actually matter? There's a quote from Tim Ferriss that changed my life. He says, busyness is a form of laziness. So think about that. Being busy is being lazy. Why? Because it's easy to fill your day with low stakes tasks, emails, meetings, tweaking your website, research, planning. It feels productive, it's comfortable, but it's completely useless. What is hard is doing the 1 or 2 big, scary things on your to-do list that actually move the needle. That's the stuff that makes you uncomfortable. That's the stuff that could fail. That's the stuff where you could experience rejection. You see, most people procrastinate on that stuff because it's scary. Then the little stuff piles up, they feel overwhelmed, and they convince themselves they need more productivity advice. But they're not making real progress. They're just spinning. So here's how I think about time. Everybody has the same 24 hours. Elon Musk has 24 hours. You have 24 hours. I have 24 hours. So the difference isn't how many hours you work. It's what you fill those hours with. You see, most people fill their hours with low signal activities. That stuff that keeps them comfortably busy and safely stuck. The real game is to fill your hours with the highest signal moves possible. So what am I talking about? I think about everything in terms of signal versus noise. So the signal is the stuff that actually matters. Those are the conversations that change everything, the decisions that unlock new levels, the actions that directly create whole new aspects of revenue and impact and results. The noise is everything else. The drama, the busy work, the optimizing of things that don't matter, the 47th revision of your logo. So when you optimize your days for signal and you just cut out the noise, you can do in 4 hours what most people can't do in 12. So what do I actually do every day? All right, let me break it down. There's really only 2 things I focus on. Number 1, sharpen the saw. And number 2, make the big, scary moves. That's it. Everything else is either delegation or elimination or noise. So let me just explain each one. The concept of sharpening the saw comes from Stephen Covey. That's the guy that wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People back in the day. And it's a great concept. The idea is simple. If a lumberjack spends all day chopping wood with a dull axe, he's working hard, but he's not getting anywhere. The smart move is to take the time to sharpen the axe, even if it looks like he's not working. So for me, sharpening the saw, sharpening the axe means anything I do to increase my capacity. My physical capacity, my mental capacity, emotional capacity, spiritual capacity. That's not optional. That is the foundation of all of our success. So here's what my morning looks like. I wake up, I deliberately do not check my phone. I do 30 to 60 minutes of some combination of meditation and prayer and visualization, usually in the shower, so I can kill two birds with one stone. Then I do a little something physical, usually a sauna, cold plunge. Sometimes I'm just playing with my kids. I take my supplements, methylene blue, or whatever my current stack is. And by the time I sit down to work, I am operating at a completely different level than somebody who woke up, doom scrolled for an hour, and then immediately started putting out fires. My mind is clear, my energy is high, my capacity is expanded. That is the axe being sharpened. And here's why this matters so much. There is a principle from neuroscience that explains this perfectly. So you have your prefrontal cortex. This is the front part of the brain that is responsible for decision-making, creativity, complex problem solving, and it's got a limited capacity. So every decision you make actually depletes it. Every fire you put out, every email you respond to, every time you switch context, it drains the tank. This is called decision fatigue. And by mid-afternoon, most people's prefrontal cortex is like running on fumes. And that means you're making worse decisions, you're reacting instead of strategizing, you're in survival mode. But here's what most people don't realize. Sleep, meditation, exercise, good nutrition, they replenish that capacity. So when you protect your morning for sharpening the saw, you're not wasting time. You are maximizing the horsepower and intellectual firepower that is available to you to make those high stakes decisions. You're ensuring that when you sit down and do the important work, you're at full capacity. That's not soft, that's science. And I learned this the hard way because early in my career, I was the guy who woke up and just dove into email, phone buzzing, Slack pinging, fires everywhere. And I thought I was being productive, but I was just reacting to BS. And by noon, I was fried. So I'd spend the rest of the day doing busy work because I just didn't have the mental capacity for anything else. And then I'd work late trying to catch up. And I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm somehow, I'm still not even moving the ball forward. So when I finally started protecting my mornings, everything changed. The same hours in the day started producing completely different results. Not because I was working harder, but because I was working with a sharper blade. Make sense? So your business can only grow as fast as you can grow. If your body's inflamed, if your mind is foggy, if your nervous system is shot, you're not going to make good decisions. You can't hold the frame in a high stakes conversation. You can't think creatively about really complicated problems. And if you're trying to build a $10 million business with a $100,000 brain, it just doesn't work. So the more energy you have, the more powerful signals you can process and act on. And that means you can hold bigger ideas. You can handle bigger stakes and bigger problems without burning out. So every day, sharpen that blade first, every single day. It's non-negotiable. Now, the second thing, and this is where most people fall apart, is making the big, scary moves. So these are the actions that could change everything, right? These are the actions that you put off and avoid because they're uncomfortable. So let me tell you about a moment that changed everything for me. I was 31 years old, sitting in the lobby of the Palazzo Hotel in Vegas, and I was crying into my bourbon because I was looking down the barrel of maybe being a 40-year-old bartender. And I knew that the next 10 years from 30 to 40 could not go the same way as the 10 years before. I had a choice. I could keep doing what I'd been doing, which was safe and comfortable and going nowhere, or I could make a big, scary move. And so I quit my bartending job with $500 in the bank. That wasn't even enough to cover the next month's rent. And I started my online business. And in my first year, I made $250,000. Now, I mean, look, I probably could have ended up homeless, right? So this could have been a different story, but I took the leap. But here's what I learned. Any idiot can set a goal, but there are moments when life taps you on the shoulder and challenges you. Is this just a dream, or are you willing to risk it all? And most people are afraid to take that plunge. But when you do, life catches you. And that's what those big, scary moves look like. You don't sit around preparing forever. You don't wait until you're ready. You put yourself in a position where somebody can say yes or no. And most business owners don't do this. They hide behind preparation. They're getting ready to get ready. They tell themselves, I got to read one more book, or get one more certification, or take one more course, or get a little bit more ready, or get another degree. But the only way to collapse time is to put yourself in front of decisions, make offers, have conversations, risk hearing the word no. And this is the question I ask myself every day. What is the biggest, scariest move that I can make right now that would change everything? And sometimes that's a conversation that I've been putting off with a team member. Sometimes that's reaching out to a potential growth partner who's above my level. Sometimes it's just raising our prices. Maybe it's making an offer that I'm afraid I'm going to get rejected. But whatever that is, that's what I do first. And here's another question I love from Peter Thiel. How can you achieve your 10-year goals in 6 months? Most people think that's impossible, but it's not. It just requires you to do the uncomfortable, the scary, the things that are outside your current identity. Because when you are willing to do those things, that's when time collapses. And if you're not, you're going to spend 10 years, what could have taken you 6 months. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're realizing that you've been filling your days with noise instead of signal, and you want help restructuring how you operate, that's what we do. So click the link in the description of this video, book a call with us. We'll look at your business. We'll show you exactly where you're leaking time and energy and how to fix it and make the whole thing more efficient. All right, let's keep going. Now, once you've sharpened the saw and once you've made your big scary moves, then what? Then what do you do? Because there's always more. There's more emails, more tasks, more requests, more problems. So the answer is a framework that I call BREAD, B-R-E-A-D. BREAD stands for batch, reduce, eliminate, automate, and delegate. Batch, reduce, eliminate, automate, delegate. So everything that's not sharpening the saw or making big scary moves gets run through BREAD. So let's go one by one. Batch, that's the B. You group similar tasks together. So you don't check email 50 times a day, you check it twice. You don't take calls randomly, you block out a specific window for taking calls, and that's it. And what that does for you is it eliminates that context switching, right? And context switching kills productivity. You're doing a sales call, then you're answering an email, then you're working on your website, then you're doing this, right? So remember what I said about the prefrontal cortex. Every time you switch contexts like that, you're draining the bank. Now, batching preserves your mental horsepower for what matters and keeps you focused on one thing. All right, the R, that's reduce. Ask yourself, does this need to be done at all? Most tasks can be reduced in scope or frequency. So if you got like a weekly report that nobody reads, do it every month or just kill it. That's the E, that's eliminate. And this is the most powerful one. Just don't do it. Most of the things on your to-do list don't actually need to happen. They feel important, but they're not. So if they're not, just cut. That's the E. A, automate. Anything that happens repeatedly can probably be automated, especially now with AI. Scheduling, follow-ups, reporting, payments. The more you automate, the less you have to think about. And then finally, the D, delegate. And this is where most entrepreneurs struggle because you always have that thought in your head, oh man, nobody can do this as good as me. Maybe. But 90% as good done by someone else is infinitely better than 100% as good as something that never gets done because you're overwhelmed. BREAD, batch, reduce, eliminate, automate, delegate. And here's the big principle. Anything that's not in your zone of genius should be delegated to someone else. So your zone of genius is the stuff that you are both amazing at and you love to do. So for me, that is designing marketing, leading strategy, having high stakes conversation, coaching at the highest level. Everything else, somebody else is going to do that. And as your company grows, you just keep shrinking your role until you are only doing like the one or two things that only you can do. That's how you build a business that doesn't require you to grind 12 hours a day. So here's what a typical day looks like for me now. Got the morning routine, I sharpen the saw. Then I do 2 to 4 hours of deep work. That's the big, scary moves, the high leverage activities. And then whatever else needs to happen, key calls, leadership, coaching, content, by like mid-afternoon, I'm usually done and I can be present with my kids. I can go for a walk. I can read. I can go in the sauna. I can live my life. Now, look, I'm not saying that, I never work more than 4 hours. Of course, some days I do. If we're launching a big initiative or we're making a major change or we're rolling out a new program, yeah, I'm going to be sprinting. I'm going to be working more. But the point is, I don't have to work 12-hour days just to keep the lights on. You see what I mean? The foundation is solid. The systems work, great team that's executing. And because I spent years optimizing for signal, not hours, it all just works. All right, there's one more piece of this that most people miss, and this might be the most important. It is not just about what you do, it's about the conversations you don't have. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It is the conversations you don't have that destroy your business. This is so important because these conversations suck, right? The team member who's struggling, nobody tells them the truth. So they keep struggling for months. The salesperson who's totally off track, but nobody corrects them. So they keep losing deals. You know, the partner who has a concern, but they bottle it up until it becomes this massive crisis. You know, the client who's unhappy, but nobody checks in with them until they leave and ask for a refund. So all of that is chaos. That is noise that compounds in the dark. And by the time it surfaces, it's like 10 times more expensive to fix. High signal businesses have a culture of truth. That means we say the thing that needs to be said quickly, directly, with kindness, yes, but without softening the truth. So if someone is off track, they need to hear about it immediately, not in their quarterly review, today. If there's a problem brewing, we address it now, not next week. That's why some of these guys who are totally on the spectrum are so successful, because they just say what they need to say, right? Most people avoid those conversations because they are afraid of conflict. They're afraid of being seen as harsh. They're afraid of pushback, so they avoid. You know, you hint. You hope that things will get better on their own so you don't have to have that tough conversation. And of course, they never do. So let me give you an example from my own business. A few years ago, I had a team member, person I really, really liked, who was underperforming. And again, I really liked them as a person. So I kept hoping that they would turn it around. And for months, and I should fire myself for this, right? For months, I avoided the conversation. And I gave gentle feedback. I hoped they would take the hint. I made excuses. And meanwhile, the rest of the team is picking up the slack. They're carrying the water for that one person. So then morale is suffering, results were down. When I finally had that hard conversation and we parted ways, guess what happened? Everything improved like immediately. The team's energy shifted, results improved, everybody was relieved. So I wasted months and a ton of money because I was afraid of one conversation. I will never make that mistake again. Now, when I see a problem, I address it immediately. Yes, it's uncomfortable in the moment, but it saves massive pain later. Now, when you put all this together, morning, you sharpen the saw. Then you make the big scary moves. Then everything else gets run through bread, batch, reduce, eliminate, automate, delegate. You have the hard conversations immediately. When you do that, something happens. Time starts to collapse. You start doing in months what used to take years. You start hitting goals that seem impossible to other people. You start moving at a speed that looks insane to everybody else. And here's why. Most people's progress is slow because they're operating at a low signal. They are grinding on tasks that just don't really matter. They are avoiding the big game-changing moves that would change everything. And they're letting problems fester. So they work 60-hour weeks and barely make any progress. Now, when you flip that, you can operate at ultra high speed because every hour you work is now maximally effective. You are only doing what matters. You are taking the actions that create leverage. You are addressing problems before they get worse. And an hour of high signal work is worth like 10 hours of low signal grinding. That is how you collapse time. Let me give you another example. Business owner comes to us making $30,000 a month, working constantly, totally overwhelmed, can't figure out how to grow. And we look at her operation and we realize that she is spending most of her time on things that don't matter. She's grinding out content that doesn't convert. She's having conversations with people who were never going to buy. She was tweaking things that already were working and just sort of like rearranging things. So we restructure, we cut the noise, we focus only on what drives revenue forward, and we have those conversations that she had been avoiding. We make the moves that she had been postponing. A couple months later, she's operating at a completely different level, working fewer hours than she was before. That's not magic. That's what happens when you focus on signal. All right, one other layer I want to touch on. When you operate at high signal, something shifts that goes beyond productivity. Your energy changes, your confidence compounds, your nervous system calibrates to bigger stakes. You start attracting opportunities that match your higher standard. Now look, it sounds woo-woo, but I've experienced this way too many times to dismiss it. When your life is mostly signal, it's like time bends around you. So if you want help structuring your business and your schedule to operate at this level, click the link in the description of the video, book a call to talk to us. We're going to show you where you're leaking time and energy, and we'll give you a clear plan to collapse your timeline. All right, let me bring this home. Let me give you the exact daily system I use because you can implement this today. Number one, first thing in the morning, protect your morning, sharpen your saw. No phone, no email, no putting out fires, just you building your capacity. Second, block out 2 to 4 hours for deep, undisturbed work. This is where you make your big, scary moves. Shut the door, turn off notifications, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and do the one scary thing on your to-do list that can really move the ball forward. 3, keep everything else ultra simple. At the end of the day, write down the 6 most important things you need to do tomorrow, and then the next day, just work through them in order. Whatever you don't finish, carry to the next day, and put everything through that bread anagram. Batch, reduce, eliminate, automate, delegate, and you can probably cut that list way down. That's it. You don't need some complicated productivity system. Literally, a piece of paper and a calendar is enough. What you need is the discipline to protect your high signal time, to say no to the things that don't matter, and the guts to do the scary stuff first. And if you do that every day, like truly every day, you will leapfrog past your competition and you will achieve in months what takes them years because they're grinding, right? Like they're in the hustle culture. You are moving with precision. The 4 hours a day that built a $100 million company were not about working harder. They were about working with maximum signal. Sharpen the saw every morning. Build your capacity before you build your business. Make the big, scary moves. Put yourself in front of those decisions. Have those tough conversations. Stop hiding behind preparation. And all the other little things on your to-do list, put it through that bread anagram. Batch, reduce, eliminate, automate, delegate. Have the tough conversations. Don't let the chaos compound. Don't let the noise compound in the dark. And when you do that, you sit back and you watch time collapse. That is how you build a business that gives you income and freedom and impact all at the same time. Not just one, all 3. And again, if you want help implementing this, click the link in the description of the video, book a call with my team. We will look at your business. We will show you how to restructure it for maximum leverage so you can get your freedom back. All right, thanks for watching. If this was valuable, hit the subscribe button, dropping more unfiltered stuff like this twice a week, and leave me a comment. What is the biggest time waster in your business right now? And can you commit to getting rid of it? What's that noise that you need to cut? I read every comment, and I'll probably respond to you with something specific. I'll see you in the next video. I'm Russ Rufino.